Hey everyone, and welcome to the biggest sim racing championship I have ever competed in. This is the Dream Team Series 2 hosted by OverTake, a 4-race event in Assetto Corsa with some of the biggest and best sim racing creators around the world. And for some reason, I'm in it too. But seriously, there is a great group competing here. You've got full-on esports champions alongside more casual sim drivers like myself. I may be big in Horizon, but my sim racing experience is limited to some casual motorsport and Gran Turismo play, and dabbling in drifting, toge, and highway cruises in Assetto. So signing up for the Dream Team series was a big move in seeing how I stack up against competitive drivers in the big leagues. Here's how it works. There's 7 teams competing, with 4 drivers each, made up of 2 content creators and 2 community members chosen by each creator for each race. I am part of the Bois Racing team, alongside Amos Laredo, an esports champion in F1, ACC, R-Factor, and more. This is a guy who's competed against real F1 drivers like Alonso and Lando Norris. Needless to say, he's pretty good. For race 1, I chose Magnus, one of my longtime moderators and content editors, as my community driver. Our first race takes place here at the fictional PGO International Circuit, in front-wheel drive touring cars. I had gotten some practice on the track before the race and was feeling pretty decent about my faster laps, so when it came time to qualify, I felt like I at least wouldn't be last. Unfortunately, with 28 other drivers on track, there was limited open road, and I struggled to get a clean fast lap. By the end though, I did manage to squeeze out a time I was pretty happy with, a little over 1/10 of a second slower than my best lap, but that still managed to place me on the starting grid in position 12 out of 28 drivers. I was feeling a mix of shock that I would be starting towards the front of the pack, and some disappointment, knowing that if I could have managed to match my best practice lap, I'd be in the top 10 alongside my other 3 teammates who were in positions 2, 6, and 10. Sitting on the grid, I was practically shaking in my sim rig. For many, this was just another casual race, but for me, this was quite possibly the biggest race I've ever done. I was feeling the nerves, and with so many drivers, turn 1, even lap 1, had the potential to be a big nightmare. My goal was to play it safe. Losing a single position is a lot better than crashing out and getting sent to the back of the pack. So with race 1 underway, let's go ahead and look at some of the highlights from the race, and we'll jump in a little bit and get some of my live commentary as well. And as you can see, turn 1 actually went pretty smoothly. I did again play it safe and ended up losing a position to Renee from OverTake, which brought me down into position 13. I was still feeling pretty good though, and had some distance ahead of me, but the drivers behind were chomping at my rear, and I knew the real trouble corner was coming up. This downhill right-hander into a 90-degree left. This was the corner that would make or break the race for so many drivers. And on lap 1, with everyone still so bunched up, I was feeling the pressure. I had messed this one up a lot in practice, but I held on here and actually managed to gain a little bit of time, putting me right behind Danny Gusa, an incredible esports driver, and my teammate Magnus. So with the race underway and lap 1 almost under my belt, the nerves were wearing off and I was starting to fall into my rhythm. I knew the track, I knew the car, I just had to stay consistent and practice some good racecraft. Lap 2 went well. I was holding my position, but just barely. A fleet of Civics were hot on my tail, and here, by lap 3, I knew I had to give Happy the pass on the 90-degree left, bringing me down into 14th place. I was driving hard, but losing position. I needed to remember my hot laps, not get psyched out, and push harder. Over the next few laps, I held my position with Happy and Danny Gusa, not letting up at all and putting a gap between the drivers behind me. But coming into lap 7, disaster struck for my teammate Amos, who locked up and crashed on turn 1, sending him from a potential podium down to the middle of the pack. So with our team's best driver behind me now, the pressure was mounting, and the battle to regain position was in full force. Luckily, Danny and Happy fighting it out was slowing them both down, and here in lap 8, I tried to make a few moves, but just couldn't quite pull it off. Finally though, on this fate-deciding tight left, Happy went inside Danny's line going for a pass, but underbraked and turned in too much, hitting the curb and sending him wide. Amos, who had been fighting his way back behind me, followed suit and got the pass as well. This move finally brought me back into my starting position of 12th. Now all of our drivers were looking pretty good. Magnus and Amos's community driver Federico were in the top 10, and Amos and I were not far behind. Lap 10, another driver, Lenny, locked up and crashed on this same corner. I wasn't joking when I said this one section would make or break these races for so many. This bumped me up into position 11, my first time the whole race being above my starting place, so I was feeling pretty good. I knew what I had to do though. I've been chasing Danny the whole race and I just didn't have the chops to get the pass. But I knew Amos did. So coming onto the start-finish straight onto lap 12, I gave Amos the pass and wished him well.
Go for it if you want it.
You, mate.
You bet. Get in that top 10.
I think that's the P10. Come on. Maybe P9, P10.
He closed the gap almost immediately, and for 2 laps put some pressure on Danny. Then, on lap 14, the second to last lap of the race, he made a move. Going for a late break and an inside line coming into turn 1, he tried for the pass, but Danny was right there. With nowhere to go, Amos skidded off track, making us both panic.
Oh, no.
Save it. Yes, okay.
Oh, my God.
Oh, I was sweating for you.
Luckily, though, he recovered quick and astonishingly managed to stay right behind Danny. Later on in that same lap, Amos went for it again, cutting inside late and colliding with Danny, pushing them both off track.
I don't know.
I mean, hey, you're up there. Yeah, I had a front row seat of that one.
It was a rough pass, but it brought Amos into the number 10 position and me into 11th. All I had to do now was hold my place for one more lap. And if Amos could finish in 10th, it would mean he'd start first for the second race of the day, which had a top 10 reverse grid. Everyone behind 10th would start where they finished. On our final lap, Happy, my old nemesis, was right back on my tail coming into the final stretch, and I almost lost it.
Whew. Almost threw away my position there.
No, mate. We are P8, P9, P10. So is that P1, P2, P3? Okay, at least. Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
Fucking. What a race.
A race
Oh my
indeed. Not too bad. I can't be too upset about that.
And there you have it.
Oh, man,
Race
I can't
1
believe
was
you
in the books,
squeezed
and I
in
not
there.
only managed to hold my starting
wow.
position against some incredible drivers, I even managed to gain a place overall. It wasn't perfect, but for my first major Assetto Corsa race, it was still incredible. And amazingly, like you heard Amos and I talking about on the live radio, our whole team finished 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. This would mean that Amos, Federico, and Magnus would be taking up all 3 top positions on the grid going into race 2, and I wouldn't be too far behind in position 11. Or so I thought. Let's take a look at the start of race 2.
Good luck, mate.
Good luck. Remember,
Yeah,
get in
the
first and
strongest
stay
one.
in first. That's all you need to do.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, just completely abused. Oh, that's unfortunate.
You're out?
Yep. Immediately rammed all over the track.
Ah.
Alright, well, I've got some work to do now.
The nightmare scenario had happened. I crashed out on turn 1 and crashed hard, having to wait until everyone went by to get back on the road, putting me in a deep last place. But I wasn't the only casualty though. On lap 1, as you're seeing, LPN crashed on turn 2, followed by Race and Collie, who was spun out shortly after, along with clashes. So I did manage to quickly work my way back into 25th place. Still a long distance away from 11th. I was feeling pretty burned. I wanted to blame my high ping for my crash, being a US driver on a German server, but I knew I could have put myself in a better position to account for that. I had to suck it up and start making some moves. Unfortunately, early in lap 2, while my teammates were fighting for the lead, I was fighting to hold on to 25th against LPN. Luckily though, on our favorite corner, LPN and Oscar both went wide, giving me just enough space to pass, but LPN put up a heck of a fight and quickly regained his place. We ended up fighting it out for the whole rest of the lap, and finally, I did manage to get the pass back in lap 3 and hold it. LPN went wide in turn 1, giving me an easy pass. He regained speed really quickly though, and we were neck and neck coming into turn 2, even trading paint a bit. But I held speed and had the inside and managed to come out ahead through the middle of the lap. LPN and I had a great battle, but unfortunately, what ended up sealing the deal was Stargamer crashing on the 90 left, which I was narrowly able to avoid, but LPN wasn't so lucky. This brought me up to 23rd and put a big gap between me and the drivers behind. I still had a lot of work ahead of me though, and I didn't think I'd keep getting so lucky gaining positions through crashes. In another stroke of luck, however, Alex had to pit, gaining me yet another position. Then, soon after, in lap 4, Anastasia braked too late and locked up, bringing me all the way up to position 20. At this point, I had a big gap to make up before I'd start seeing the other drivers and maybe start gaining positions again. So over the next 2 laps of open road, I gave it my all, and by lap 6 was putting pressure on Slap Train. This was a great battle, so I'm going to throw you over to the live race and just let it play out in full.
Come on, come on. Whew. Sorry, Slap. Had to do it.
It was another rough pass coming into that hard left, which seems to be a signature of my team at this point, but I took the lead and held position 19 for the next 5 laps. It was another big stretch to the next pack of drivers, but it was a big pack. If I pushed hard enough, I knew I'd have a chance to gain at least 1 or 2 more places. And here on lap 13, my second to last lap, I was right up there, battling with Cool Kid and Idro. I couldn't quite get the pass anywhere, But on the last lap of the final race, disaster struck on this fateful corner, but not for me.
My qualifying. There, Oscar.
Oh, jeez.
Okay. Race over there.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Thank you very much. We have the best fans here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Come on,
Fantastic. I fought my way into the middle of the pack. Whew. I'd say coming from a deep last, I'll be happy with the 15th.
And there you have it. On the last half of the last lap, I managed to take advantage of a big crash between some of the top drivers and gain 4 positions in a matter of seconds, bringing me to a 15th place finish. Further back from my 11th place grid start, but after a turn 1 upset putting me in last, I had managed to pass a total of 13 other drivers throughout the course of the race. Amos and his community driver, Federico, held on to their positions, finishing in 1st and 2nd. And my community driver, Magnus, placed 7th. Honestly, all things considered, it was still a great race with some great battles. And my team managed to carry me all the way into 2nd place for an overall team ranking, only behind by 2 points. My first major sim racing event was in the bag, and even though it had its ups and downs, I honestly feel great about my performance. And folks, this was just race 1 of 4. It gets really interesting next week, so stay tuned for race 2.